The Kivrak had established their outpost on the barren world of Dathor, a rocky planet that had no history or significance in the galaxy. It was just another insignificant corner of space, tucked away far from the galactic highways. The planet was quiet, desolate, and seemingly devoid of life. The perfect place for the Shivrak to set up a military operation without distraction. Commander Lorkak, a battle-hardened leader of the Shivrak forces, stood on the balcony of the outpost's command center, looking out over the vast, gray landscape. His dark eyes scanned the horizon, as if expecting an enemy to appear at any moment. The Shivrak were known for their ruthlessness, their tactical genius, and their advanced weapons. Lorkak had conquered dozens of planets, his name whispered, in fear across the galaxy. But this time, things were different. A handful of humans had been assigned to a small research colony in this sector, and Lorkak found it curious. The humans, after all, were primitive, biologically and technologically inferior to the Shivrak in every way. Their weapons were laughable compared to the Shivrak's energy rifles and plasma swords. It was said that they could barely even harness the power of their own planet, yet here they were, sent to observe a resource extraction operation. Lorkak was unconcerned. He knew that humans, with their primitive minds, wouldn't last long. They were just another minor obstacle in the grand scheme of things, yet something gnawed at the back of his mind. The humans weren't quite like the others he had encountered before. They were resourceful, adaptable, traits that the Shivrak had learned to respect in their enemies. But they weren't ready for the might of the Shivrak, or so Lorkak thought. A spark of resistance when the humans first arrived, they did not appear as a threat. Sergeant Mark Daniels, a tall, lean man with sharp eyes and an even sharper wit, led the human team. His soldiers, each of them scarred from various skirmishes with hostile forces, carried nothing more than outdated rifles, some tools for mining, and basic survival gear. Commander Lorkak, Mark greeted the alien leader with an easy smile, offering a handshake that Lorkak ignored. "I trust you've been briefed about our mission," Lorkak grunted, his voice like gravel scraping against metal. "Yes, humans. You will either serve your purpose or become an inconvenience." Mark didn't flinch. Instead, he surveyed the Shivrak forces, calculating. "I'm sure you're right, but don't be too quick to underestimate us." With a wave of his hand, Lorkak dismissed the human team. The Shivrak weren't interested in diplomacy, only in the resources that lay beneath the planet's surface. The humans were merely a nuisance, barely worth considering. It wasn't until the first skirmish that Lorkak began to sense that something was wrong. As the Shivrak soldiers advanced on a mining site, their weapons charged and ready, the humans watched from a distance. Mark Daniels signaled his team, and in a flash they disappeared into the rocky terrain, blending with the environment. The Shivrak opened fire, energy blasts cutting through the air, but the humans dodged, using the rocky outcrop to shield themselves. They didn't stand and fight like the Shivrak expected. They were quick, agile, and clever. Then, in the blink of an eye, Mark reached down and picked up a small rock, a sharp, jagged piece of stone that looked no different from the countless others scattered across the terrain. With uncanny accuracy, he threw it at one of the Shivrak soldiers' weapon systems. The rock struck the power core of the soldier's energy blaster, short-circuiting it and rendering the weapon useless. "Impossible," Lorkak shouted, staring at the sight in disbelief. The rock had destroyed a weapon that had taken years of advanced technology to develop. A simple stone, nothing more than a piece of the very planet they were standing on, had outmatched the might of the Shivrak. The Shivrak soldiers hesitated, caught off guard. This was no ordinary battle. The element of surprise. The surprise didn't end there. Over the next few hours, Mark and his team outwitted the Shivrak at every turn. They used their environment, rocks, trees, even the crumbling remnants of old mining equipment, as weapons. The Shivrak, with their high-tech gear, found themselves overwhelmed by the humans' unpredictability. One of the Shivrak soldiers, confident in his own technological superiority, fired his plasma cannon at a human soldier who was hiding behind a large boulder. The blast should have been fatal, but at the last moment the human ducked to the side, grabbing an old mining cart that had been discarded nearby. With a swift push, the cart collided with the plasma cannon, knocking it off target and causing a massive explosion. Lorcac watched in stunned silence. The Zhivrak had superior weapons, yet the humans had used an old, rusted cart to outmaneuver them. They weren't fighting with strength or technology. They were fighting with their minds. "We're not here to fight your weapons," Mark Daniels said as he emerged from the smoke. "We're here to survive." And survive they did. The Zhivrak had underestimated the humans in every possible way, assuming they would crumble beneath the weight of advanced technology. Instead, it was the humans who had proven to be the more adaptable, more dangerous force. The turning tide. By the time the sun set on Dathor, the battle had taken an unexpected turn. The Zhivrak forces, once confident and dominant, had begun to falter. The human team had used every inch of the terrain to their advantage, setting traps, ambushing, and using everything at their disposal to take down the superior alien forces. Lorcac's frustration grew with every passing minute. He called for reinforcements, but it was too late. The humans were relentless, and each attempt to counter their tactics only led to more failure. "We can't just keep pushing forward like this," one of the Zhivrak officers said, fear creeping into his voice. They're using our own mistakes against us," Lorcac snapped, his anger boiling over. "We will not retreat. We are the Zhivrak. We do not retreat." But retreat was exactly what they did. The humans had lured the remaining Zhivrak soldiers into a narrow ravine, where the Zhivrak's bulky armor and heavy weapons gave them little advantage. In the close quarters, the Zhivrak found themselves exposed, unable to maneuver. One by one, the Zhivrak soldiers fell to the humans' makeshift weapons. Mark Daniels, his face smeared with dirt and blood, stood at the edge of the ravine, watching the last Zhivrak retreat. He held a small, jagged rock in his hand, the very object that had begun this chain of events. "You wanted a weapon," Mark said quietly, watching the alien forces flee. "Then you learned why we don't need them." The real weapon, the Zhivrak had lost the battle, but they refused to acknowledge their defeat. Commander Lorcac, his pride shattered, called for a full retreat to their ship, but as he boarded the transport, he couldn't help but think back to the humans' victory. They had won not because of superior weapons, but because they had the one thing the Zhivrak had never considered: adaptability. The humans didn't need high-tech energy weapons. They had used everything at their disposal: rocks, tools, even the planet itself, to defeat the Zhivrak. Their creativity, their ingenuity, and their sheer will to survive had turned the tide of the battle. And as the Zhivrak ship lifted off from the planet's surface, Lorcac's mind raced. This wouldn't be the last time he faced humans. He knew that now. "Mark Daniels," Lorcac muttered to himself, "you may have won this battle, but the war is far from over." A new beginning. As the dust settled and the humans regrouped, there was a feeling of quiet triumph in the air. They had done the impossible. They had driven off the mighty Zhivrak, not with advanced weapons, but with simple tools and clever tactics. Mark Daniels stood on the edge of the battlefield, looking out at the stars above. The battle had been hard and many had fallen, but they had won. The Zhivrak would remember this day, but Mark knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would soon learn the true power of humanity. "We may be small, but we are relentless," Mark said, turning to his team. "This galaxy has no idea what it's in for." And as the night sky darkened over the barren planet, the humans knew one thing for certain: their survival was not guaranteed by their weapons, but by their unbreakable spirit. The universe had underestimated them, but they were just getting started.